So today we're going to do some different watercolor techniques, and what I want you to do is use this as your rough draft piece of paper, and you're going to draw a line straight across horizontally, and then you're going to draw two lines down the middle so that your paper is split between into 6 sections. You don't need a ruler, don't fold your paper, you just want it to be drawn out. It doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of eyeball it. Then on the bottom 3 sections, you're going to break those in half. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sections. What we're going to start with is the first watercolor technique, which is the most common watercolor technique, and you're going to use quite a bit on all of your different techniques that we're going to do, and it's called a wash. So you're going to go ahead and label wash down at the bottom. You're going to pick a color that you like, and basically you want to have even amounts of color and water on your brush, and you're going to just evenly distribute color on your paper. It shouldn't pool up, it shouldn't be really intense, it should still be pretty translucent. Then we're going to do a graded wash, and that's where we're going to start off with a little bit more intense color. So you're going to have quite a bit of the paint on your brush, and you're going to draw across the top like so. Then you're going to rinse all of the all of the color out of your brush. Dab it a little bit, and you're going to take that little bits of water and you're going to just kind of pull it down so that it gradually becomes lighter. So it should go from intense color gradually basically down to just plain water. You shouldn't have a harsh line. Then we're going to do color blend. And this is where we want to use analogous colors, colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, because those colors are going to mix together really nicely. We don't want to use complementary colors across from each other, because when you mix them together you're going to kind of get a muddy grayish brownish color. So I'm going to use blue, and I'm just going to do a little bit over here, and then I'm going to do some green, and I'm painting in 2 lines, and then I'm kind of going to do a graded wash with that green towards the middle, and then graded wash until the colors meet in the middle. Then I can come back with a little bit of each of those colors to kind of let them blend together, but you don't want to have any harsh lines where it separates the 2 colors. And you don't want to go across too much and then have it be where it's all one color. You still want to see the difference between the colors that they originally were and where they've blended together. Then down here we're going to do what's called bleeding, and that's where you're going to again want to use some analogous colors. So you're going to start with a lighter color. You'll see the bleeding a little bit better, and you're going to do a nice wash of color. And then you're going to take a little bit of a darker color, again color that's near it, and you want it to be wet. Both the wash and the color that you're going to put on has to be wet, and you're just going to dab the color and you're going to let it kind of just do its own thing. It's very unpredictable, but it will start to bleed and blend and kind of becomes its own little color blend, and it'll look a little bit tie-dyed when you're finished. The next one is called blot. And this one's kind of interesting because it creates a very cool texture. So you're going to have a little bit more paint on your brush at this time. You want to have a fairly intense color wash here. And then you're going to just take some crumbled up paper towel and you just blot back the color. And it's going to create this really cool texture. The next one we're going to do is called a resist. And that's where you're going to take a crayon and you're going to apply some sort of a design, and when we do a wash over it, the wax from the crayon is going to resist the water. So you want it to have enough water on it for it to actually do the resist, and it'll fill in all the color around it but not actually on the wax part. So that's kind of a fun one to do also. Then we're going to do salt. And this one's really cool. It creates kind of a snowflakey or star kind of effect. So you're going to use another wash of color, And you need to work while this one's wet. And then you're going to just take a little pinch of salt and you sprinkle it on just a little bit. And the salt's going to pull some of the color out of the water. And then when it dries completely, it will look like little snowflakes. So it's going to kind of take a little bit of time while it's drying to do that one. So we're going to move on to dry brush. Watercolor is a very difficult medium to work with because it's so fluid from the water. So to get a little bit more control of the material, you want to use less water on your brush and more of the paint. So basically we're trying to make it more like regular paint, and you can then control the paint a little bit more without it moving all over the paper. So you just have more paint on your brush. And then the last one is going to be watercolor color pencil. And these ones are fun. Again, allows you to control the watercolor a little bit more. They look like just regular watercolor or regular color pencils, but it's actually the same paint that you see here, just in a pencil form. So you want to make sure that they say the watercolor on the side here. It says Crayola watercolor. It's got a paintbrush on it. If they're not watercolor color pencils, they will not work like that. And what you're going to do is you can kind of get a more expressionistic style without losing all of it because they blend together too much. So you can kind of see all of the different colors and you can blend a little bit more. And then what you do is you just take some plain water and you just go right over the top of it, and it turns it into watercolor without taking away all of the interesting techniques that you've done. It will blend it a little bit, so you don't want to get carried away in going over it and over and over it, otherwise it will blend it together too much. So this is your watercolor technique rough draft. There's a lot of really cool watercolor techniques that you can play with, and you can also see that the salt one is starting to do its thing. You'll use at least 7 of these watercolor techniques on your final handscape.